Hello all, my name is Grant Jones and today I'll be presenting a presentation about the basics behind golf. So my credibility, I know it sounds kind of silly, but I play a lot of golf. I've played 4 times this week and I have a lot of knowledge about the sport that I like a lot. So my first point is we're going to be starting off with the technology of golf balls. So I'm using Titleist balls as an example, as they're the most played ball by PGA Tour and Live Golf members, 2 big organizations in the golf world. So I'm starting off with the Pro V1. It has a higher fly, so the flight track would be way higher than a normal ball. It spins more on the green, and what I mean by spin is that when the ball hits the green, the dimples will interact with the green, and it'll force the ball to go any random way. But it'll go like it's supposed to go straight, right? But the ball will jolt off left, jolt off right, or spin back, and that helps a lot for performance when you're trying to get on the green and shoot lower scores. The Pro V1X, it's very similar to the Pro V1. However, it has an additional layer in the middle of the core of the ball, and it spins the most on the green and has a mid feeling. And the Titleist AVX, which I'm going to talk about in 1 second, it flies lower and it spins the least on the green, which is good for like an amateur golfer like me, which is a good ball because I don't need all the extra spin. And according to Golf Digest, the covers are high performance and the covers on the Pro V1 are lighter, meaning the Pro V1 has higher spin and higher flight, and the opposite being the AVX, which has a heavier urethane cover, which means lower spin and lower flight. Good for amateur. So we're going to be talking about when to use a club. So first, this is a driver. It's a pretty cool club. Usually this will go about 200 to 250 yards in the air. For me, probably a little bit less than that. But the reason that it goes so far is because the hollowed out inside interacts with the ball's dimples on the face, and it shoots real far and real high up into the air. So this is good for like any par 4, par 5, par meaning you need to shoot those strokes to be able to have an even score on the hole. So this is great for any par 4 or par 5, like 380 yards and up to 600 yards. This is the club you're going to want to use when you hit it off of the tee box. You also can't use the driver and put it on the tee in the fairway. That's illegal on the PGA Tour. But if you're playing with your buddies, who's going to be stopping you, you know? So a 3-wood, this is my 3-wood, still has some grass on it actually. But the 3-wood, you're going to want to use in the fairway when you're about 150 to probably like 250 yards from the pin. Pros hit this club real well. I can't really hit mine at all. I'm not a big fan of it. But this club is really good for when you're in the fairway and you want to get to the green. And a hybrid is a mix between an iron club and a driver, like a 3-wood club. This club is really good for beginners to hit, and it goes about, still around 100 to 230 yards from the green. And so irons, what I'll be talking about with irons is iron loft and why iron loft matters. So I'm gonna get closer to the camera. So this is a 7 and an 8 iron. The 8 iron has less loft, meaning that the 8 iron has more loft, which means it's going to be going a little bit less far as the 7 iron. Like this club would be about, 150 to 160. This club would be about 130, 145. But I don't know if you can really tell. The lofts on the club are a little bit different. So the 7 iron is going to be a little bit more like closer to 90 degrees or 180 degrees than the 8 iron would be. And that means that the 7 iron is going to go a little bit further. And according to Cattail Golf, each degree of loft affects the distance covered by the ball, approximately 2 yards per degree of loft. And this is a wedge. The wedge has a very tilted face, a lot of loft, so this club would be used very close to the green, and they're very good for chipping it about 50-ish yards into the hole. And here's my putter. This is what you use when you're on the green, which is pretty self-explanatory. And I'll be talking now about forged and cast irons and what the difference is. According to Golf Tech, cast irons are typically called cavity backs, which means there's a larger mass on the back, which means they're better for amateur or beginner golfers, meaning that they have a bigger face and heavier back for more forgiveness. So forged irons are what I have. They're a heated piece of steel or tungsten handcrafted and molded into the shape of the iron face. The casting is when you pour the metal into a club head mold and they're cooled till dry. Forged irons generally are the better players' clubs since the manufacturer will hold a higher standard of quality and integrity when making the club. Cast irons are generally easier and more forgiving clubs to use, seen as beginners' clubs, because many manufacturers use a cavity back style mold, which allows for more mass around the perimeter of the club face, and the heavier face aids and a lower swing speed. And here are my citations. Thank you guys for viewing my presentation.